Commander Zixthera had trained warriors from 47 different species across the Galactic Coalition. In his 3 centuries of service, he'd seen every combat style, every weapon, every desperate innovation that sentient beings could conceive. He'd trained the crystalline Quarzan who could refract energy beams, the phase-shifting Nemorians who could walk through solid matter, and the telepathic Mindari who could predict their opponents' moves before they made them. But never in all those years had he encountered something quite as bewildering as the humans. The human stood in the center of the training arena. Her name was Lieutenant Sarah Chen, and she held an archaic piece of forged steel in her hands. The blade caught the harsh training lights, throwing bright reflections across the polymer floor. It was a beautiful weapon, Zixthera admitted, with flowing patterns etched into the metal that humans called Damascus steel. Beautiful, but utterly useless. Lieutenant Chen, Zixthera clicked his mandibles in what humans had learned to recognize as amusement. I appreciate your species' attachment to your historical weapons. Truly I do, but this is a practical combat assessment. You're scheduled to face a Catharian opponent wielding a plasma lance. He gestured with one of his forearms toward the waiting area where a massive insectoid warrior stood ready. Plasma burns at 15,000 degrees. It will vaporize your steel before you can even complete a swing. Sarah adjusted her grip on the sword's handle, her expression calm. Around the arena's observation deck, representatives from a dozen species watched with curiosity. Humans had only joined the coalition 3 years ago, and every aspect of their integration was scrutinized. Most species were still trying to understand what made these strange, soft-skinned bipeds worthy of membership in the galactic community. With respect, Commander, Sarah said, her voice steady, I'd like to proceed with my chosen weapon. Zixthera's laugh resonated through the arena, a chittering sound that his translator rendered as mocking amusement. You can't block plasma with steel, Lieutenant. It's not a matter of skill or courage, it's simple physics. The first strike will end this match before it begins. Noted, sir. Sarah rolled her shoulders, loosening them. She'd been training for this moment for 6 months, since she'd first learned about the Coalition's combat trials. The other human soldiers had chosen plasma rifles, shock batons, and energy shields. Standard Coalition equipment. But Sarah had made a different choice. The Catharian opponent entered the arena, his plasma lance humming with deadly energy. Purple light danced along its length, hot enough to cut through a starship's hull plating. His compound eyes focused on Sarah, and his translator carried his voice across the space. I will make this quick, human. You honor your ancestors with your choice of weapon, but honor does not stop plasma. Zixthera raised his primary arm. Combat begins now! The Catharian lunged forward with surprising speed for his bulk, the plasma lance sweeping in a wide arc toward Sarah's midsection. The observers leaned forward. This would be over in seconds. Sarah moved, but not the way anyone expected. Instead of attempting to block or parry the plasma lance, which would indeed have been suicide, she stepped into the attack, inside the arc of the swing. Her sword remained low, and in her other hand she triggered a device on her belt. A pulse of electromagnetic energy burst outward in a tight cone, and the plasma lance flickered, its containment field disrupted for a fraction of a second. That fraction was all Sarah needed. Her sword flashed upward, but she wasn't aiming for the plasma itself. The blade struck the lance's projection array at its base where the magnetic bottles generated the plasma stream. Damascus steel, famous for its flexibility and edge retention, bit into the hardened alien alloy. The lance sputtered and died. The Catharian staggered backward, shocked. Sarah pressed her advantage, her sword moving in flowing patterns, not trying to cut through his armored exoskeleton, but targeting joints, sensors, the delicate antennae that provided his spatial awareness. Every strike was precise, calculated. Within 30 seconds, the Catharian yielded, dropping his useless lance in submission. The arena fell silent. Zixthera's mandibles hung open. How did you... Sarah sheathed her sword, breathing heavily. You were right, Commander. I can't block plasma with steel, so I didn't try to. The EMP pulse disrupted the containment field, a trick we learned fighting drones back on Earth. Plasma weapons are powerful, but they're also complex. They have vulnerabilities. She gestured to her sword. And steel doesn't run out of ammunition, doesn't need a power source, and doesn't have electronics to disrupt. Sometimes the old ways work precisely because everyone assumes they won't. One of the observers, a reptilian Shrathi diplomat, rose from her seat. The human did not win through superior technology or natural advantages. She won through adaptation, through seeing a weakness where we saw only strength. Another observer, a gaseous Veldran, pulsed with light. This is what makes them dangerous. Not their weapons or their biology. Their thinking. They look at an impossible problem and find a solution we never considered. Zixthera approached Sarah, his forearms spread in a gesture of respect. Lieutenant Chen, I owe you an apology. I assessed your weapon and found it wanting. I should have assessed the warrior wielding it. He paused, his translator capturing the nuance of his next words carefully. Tell me, are all humans this inventive? Sarah smiled, finally allowing herself to relax. Commander, my species spent millennia figuring out how to kill each other with sticks, stones, and whatever else we could find. We learned every possible way to turn a disadvantage into an advantage. It's kind of our specialty. As the observers filed out, already composing reports about humanity's unconventional combat doctrine, Sarah cleaned her blade with a cloth. The Damascus pattern swirled in the light, ancient craftsmanship meeting a modern battlefield. Zixthera watched her, a new understanding settling into his mind. The humans weren't the strongest, the fastest, or the most technologically advanced species in the coalition, but they possessed something equally valuable. The stubborn refusal to accept that any fight was unwinnable, any weapon was obsolete, or any challenge was truly impossible. He'd trained 47 species, but the 48th had just taught him something new. In the end, that's what made them human, and in the vast, dangerous galaxy of the Coalition, that might be exactly what everyone needed.